Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome. Tonight is a very special night here because occasionally we have a guest, and after that guest appears here, I start getting a lot of emails for when they are coming back. So tonight we have one of the crowd favorites here, one of the most requested guests that I hear in my inbox, people want to hear more from, and that would be one Robert Kiviat. He is a television writer and producer who specialized in paranormal phenomenon. He's produced 11 specials for 20th Century Fox Television, most notably and most popular, Alien Autopsy. Mr. Kiviat has often appeared as a guest expert on numerous television news shows such as MSNBC's Countdown with Keith Olbermann, and on popular radio shows such as Coast to Coast AM, Art Bell, and the Jeff and Mike Show. He's been featured on Entertainment Tonight multiple times, Access Hollywood, and CNN's Showbiz Tonight. Just an incredible history he has, and of course, a connection to one of my favorite childhood television shows, and probably everybody's favorite, Unsolved Mysteries. He is one of those rare television, legends who has created so much of what popular culture would call paranormal documentary series or, television broadcasts. Alien Autopsy especially was perhaps one of the most highly rated, highly watched television specials ever produced. And I can't tell you how happy we are to have him back here. We're going to be talking about some current UFO topics, as well as asking him his thoughts on upcoming projects that he is developing right now. So his legacy continues on past his early incredible groundbreaking work. We're happy to have him here. Let's bring him right in. Welcome, Bob Kiviat. Good to see you.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate the introduction. Thanks for the little history walk through there. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you got an amazing history. Like, that's an amazing resume.
I'd like to make one adjustment though, and I think it's important, and I did last time I was on the show with you. I've never considered myself someone who does paranormal television. I came in as a journalist for Omni Magazine, writing science articles, one major cover article about the face on Mars. My whole view was NASA was not telling people the truth about what they thought about the face on Mars. For all I know today, they're not even telling the truth now. It's a very interesting story to this day, no matter what anybody says. So after that, it led me to Unsolved Mysteries and my work with Fox and NBC Universal. But overall, I'm not necessarily comfortable with that terminology, although I know that's what people in the history have said.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's from your Wikipedia.
You know what? I'm going to have that adjusted because I do have a new bio going out for the new work I'm doing, but I'm not upset at all by that. I think it's important to know that people called it paranormal television probably right up until like Ghost Hunters in 2004, where that became paranormal television and that became fake television. And so,
yeah, I think I much prefer the way that you did it. And we've talked about this before. What's missing today is Bob would bring in the skeptics and try to solve the mystery.
Exactly.
And now they don't do that. They just, it must be real. And they leave out all the evidence, the lie by omission. There was a market change after your sort of, genre that you created the genre, but then I feel like people came in and screwed it all up. After you.
They did, and by the way, the people that tried that really screwed it up the most, I blame, but I also understand, was the after 9/11. After 9/11, basically what you had was networks like Fox telling me directly, "We're not going to touch this stuff, Bob. The people can't handle it. They want to see music. They want to see comedy. They want to see lighthearted entertainment. They don't want to get anywhere near this stuff." And that became, I believe, the door opener for all this bullshit you've seen. And Harry Reid, no coincidence, 2007, as Sean Kirkpatrick at the Arrow, formerly from Arrow, is more or less confirming that the Bigelow connection to Harry Reid in 2007 is what led us to right where we are right now with David Grush or anybody else. So we could unwrap this onion any way you like, but that's pretty much where we are. Hate to say it.
Yeah. So what do you? Yeah, I was going to ask you what you think about the Grush story, considering we haven't talked since Kirkpatrick kind of came and swatted that down, and then we're also at, I think we're at 241 days now, and so far Grush has not proven any of his claims. I think that my original assertion, which is kind of confirmed by Kirkpatrick's op-ed piece, that this guy is just being influenced by the same people that did TTSA, the same people that did the psychic research scams, the same people that scammed the government out of $22 million to study poltergeists at Skinwalker Ranch. It's all the same people.
Exactly.
What's your take on it?
It's exactly the same. We were talking about this the last time I was on, when my documentary that now is going into pre-production finally, and we'll get into some of the holdups on that. One of the holdups, of course, was this information coming out. What is this information? Who are these people? What evidence do they have? So it kind of like kept me and my production staff a little bit on hold to see what was coming out, because we couldn't believe that you could have congressional hearings and people say they're going to some kind of secret room, whatever they want to call it, some military or government term. It's bullshit. The bottom line is, if the guy's got evidence of alien crashes and alien bodies, go in a room and show the Congress people what we have. There's no reason he can't do that. Nothing happened. It was a big nothing burger. So now here we are, and we're about to bring a documentary out that will confirm almost everything that I believe Arrow is going to confirm in a new report they have coming out, which is going to confirm that you had Harry Reid, literally excited about UFOs, going out to his, good friend Bob Bigelow, saying, "Hey, I can get you funding." The funding went directly to Bob Bigelow and Bigelow Aerospace. Who went along for the ride? Hal Puthoff, Eric Davis. We believe at some level, Luis Elizondo. How people like Grush got involved, most likely through the help of Nolan. Gary Nolan. Here's a guy at Stanford University who does need to be looked into, no doubt about. And you have a lot of people from the government that are aware of Gary Nolan's activities and what he's doing, but they're kind of afraid to, maybe not the right word, afraid. They don't feel it's appropriate to call him out for the bullshit, unless, of course, there's a venue for that. And we believe our documentary will be a venue for that, which might now be a series, believe it or not, Steve, because I think it's grown into a series. It really has.
Yeah, I think that I'm kind of like a maximalist. Like, I love deep dives, so I think the more you produce, the better I would like it. I know some people don't have the attention span. People keep asking me for 5-minute shorts, and I'm going like, how do I compress what I do down into these 5-minute shorts? I like long form, and I like those deep dives where you like leave no stone unturned. You just dig everywhere you can to get to the bottom of it, or you do your very, very best.
Yep.
I always sort of admired that you try to do that, especially with things like alien autopsy. Like, it felt like you went to the mat, like, let's bring in all these pathologists. Oh, and I did want to ask you something. There's still people. There's a guy on Facebook, and he sends me messages once in a while, and he runs this alien autopsy analysis Facebook group, and he's still convinced it's all real, and the people were paid off by the CIA that told of their involvement in the hoax, and it wasn't a hoax. And what do you think of people that still don't want to believe that was a hoax, that it was faked?
I think the fact that Santilli and his group have been able to maximize that hoax to this day with crazy stories about real footage and everything else was a real informing kind of thing for people like Grush and Hal Puthoff and Eric Davis and all. They figured, hey, you know what? If the alien autopsy can be like still going as a mystery to some people, we can revive our stuff. How do we know that? We know that Kit Green, formerly at the CIA, part of this whole grift team in many ways, he made the outlandish statement, a few years back, that around 2001 or 2, he was convinced the alien autopsy was real and was telling Bob Bigelow that. So you see how it all kind of connects, Steve? It's like, this is the kind of crap. I couldn't kill that. I tried to kill that so much. And to this day, there's still a lot of people who believe in that case, but there are a lot of lessons that we can learn from that case. And I think we will in the future. I think you'll see a lot.
Yeah. And so, But on the Grush thing, do you really think it's that simple that just a bunch of these same people like Hal Puthoff and he's already mentioned Eric Davis. He's working for Gary Nolan right now in this whole foundation. Is it really that simple that it's just these same bunch of people from the TTSA and from the Psychic Mind, scams?
There probably is.
But they're his sources. They're who he's getting this information. The same people that have been saying this. They haven't proved anything in decades. They're telling him this, and then he just killed his entire career to go be
a small group.
Do this.
Right. This is a small group tied to Bigelow, tied to Harry Reid, that has been propagating this kind of BS to the public. If there are alien, bodies, if there are crash saucers, these guys have no knowledge and no evidence of it. And the evidence that we really have, which I'm going to keep trying to steer the public back to in the next few months and years to come, is the database of real UFO video shot by everyday people all over the world. We'll say up until around 2003. I use that date because in 2003, a guy named Jeff Willis shot a flying metallic disc maneuvering over his house, which we're going to be showing in the new documentary, that is so compelling, so beyond anything the military has shown anybody or anything else. Shot over a guy's house in Phoenix. The thing literally, he comes up upon the house. This metallic disc is flying on its side with a dome and everything. The classic flying saucer, right? It's flying, and in camera, while he's shooting, it all flies away. So you can see it all in camera. None of this kind of bullshit like Underwood, the pilot from the FLIR video, goes.
Yeah, or like, there's always some extra part of the story that's not in the video.
Right. In other words,
Corbell just pulled us with the jellyfish. Oh,
jellyfish, right.
It went under the water, so it can't be balloons. Bullshit.
I'm calling out News Nation. I called them literally about this. I don't know if they can have me on, but News Nation, a fledgling news cable outfit, right? Banfield. This is a woman, Banfield, who literally does crime stories. She gets all excited and she says on her show one night on News Nation, oh, that jellyfish UFO, I'm doing it tonight, paraphrasing here. I'm doing this tonight because you know what? It's just amazing. And when I heard that it came out of the water and flew away in a way that a camera could not capture with any conventional technology, I'm in. There's no evidence of that at all. So that justified why she did a story about it. I think everybody at News Nation the last few weeks are doing a story on this ridiculous Jeremy Corbell story.
It's
and by
24. They're covering UFOs of all nonstop over there. It's not a real news organization.
Of all the people that let me tell you, Steve, of all the people that Joe Rogan ever promoted, the one guy I think he's going to regret in the UFO area is this guy Corbell, because he brought in his kind of dad George in there to come in and give. And I
think it's clear that Corbell got in there, and then Corbell is Joe Rogan's UFO connection, because all the rest of the people that Joe has about UFOs sort of came through. Bob Lazar, George Knapp, Fravor, all these people came through Corbell. Like he's the gatekeeper over there for when they want to do UFO shows. Well, Joe gets them to guest Bob Lazar, Dave Grush, whoever Joe wants to talk to.
Joe owes it to his listeners and viewers to bring on the evidence of the fraud, show people what's going on here with these individuals, make sure we clear up the UFO field. So in his own words, something exciting is left exciting. It's an exciting mystery. It has so much to it. There are so many cases that we could talk about tonight with real evidence of real footage, radar tapes, serious cases in the government files. One that stands up in my mind, as I've been telling my people at my company, including Manny, who you know very well, is this case from an Air Force base in North Dakota. I'm not going to announce it because I don't want other producers jumping all over it. And it is one of the biggest cases ever involving radar, pilots of the highest level, nuclear, people who hit nuclear weapons. These are the people that we really care about. And there's a case I want to tell people about in the future that is so important, even though it's from the 1960s. It doesn't mean we can't look at this evidence and go, come on. So I don't think necessarily that Sean or people over at the Arrow, they took a very serious look at this case. But, God rest his soul. Peter Jennings, a top journalist for years at ABC News, did a big story about this years ago, and especially did, and I was impressed because at least the ABC News organization was trying to look at evidence that is truly compelling. So whether it's this video shot by Jeff Willis in 2003, or whether it's this case in North Dakota in the late 60s, and I don't mean the one everybody wants to talk about, which is not North Dakota. It's, the case that Salas talks about so much, where missiles were allegedly, affected by a UFO.
Yeah, we had Brian Dunning here, and that was awesome because he broke it down. Like, come on, there was a goddamn power failure right on the date that he said this happened. Yeah. Come on, there's no mystery here.
No.
There's no mystery here.
But how about the pilots who one of them was flying above the sighting when this UFO appeared, the major. We're talking about a ship here. We're not talking about a little Tic Tac or some drone from another country or some flying paper bag like the jellyfish. We're talking about a huge craft. The B-52 pilots fly right next to it. They're seeing it with all its glory. And somehow these cases are not what we're talking about. But we're talking about instead a couple of videos shot during Navy exercises more recently, 2016, 17 to now, whatever. 14 to now, whatever. I mean, these are not what Joe Rogan and people are real fascinated about are not that level of UFO evidence. They're fascinated by the kind of videos I've aired over the years on 2 of my Fox specials. Just in those 2 specials alone from back years ago, there are 40 to 50 videos never explained. We had Admiral Bobby Inman, former NSA director, deputy director of the CIA, come on and look at these videos and go, I have no idea. I'm interested. I want to know what they are. They're not in the government files. They were in everyday people outside in the world shooting.
Yeah, now there seems to be this trend, this UAP thing, right? And it's got to come from a military source to be a good video. And meanwhile, Corbell over and over and over again with his military sources keeps showing us garbage. We
have on record Jimmy Kimmel telling Hillary Clinton when she tried to change the nomenclature, literally, she said, we're going to change the nomenclature to UAPs. Jimmy goes, nah. I like UFOs better. There's a critical point in our sizzle.
Well, it's like changing it from flying saucer to UFO, which I guess I can understand because a lot of the unidentified objects people were experiencing weren't saucer shaped. So that made sense. But to just change it for no reason, UFO, I think, covers it. I prefer that term.
Historically speaking, if you go back to a movie called Failsafe in 1960, early 60s, it was a movie where Henry Fonda played the president and other people, major actors were in this movie, Walter Matthau and all these. And then basically the premise was that if we ever had an attack by Russia or a misunderstood computer reading, and we by accident nuked Russia, we'd have to nuke one of our own cities. And as a New Yorker growing up, I'm watching this and I'm going as a kid after it was on, for years before me.
Yeah, New York is a prime target.
In that movie, they're in the war room. They're in like the big room, with all the, seeing all the satellite data and everything. And at the bottom of the screen, it says UFO detected. It was a UFO, not an alien spaceship, an unidentified flying object that our NORAD or equivalent back then need to know what it was. They use the word UFO. Anybody tonight, after we're done, go get a link to buy the whatever, $3.99. Go watch Failsafe. Black and white movie, but a great movie to watch. And by the way, you see it at the bottom of the screen, UFO. It had nothing to do with aliens. UFO was
a military term. Yeah, that would make sense that they don't want to have something that's unidentified, especially in our airspace with all the Cold War stuff going on. Yeah, it kind of makes sense.
Right, and after there was this alleged period in the early 70s where this story began to be built around Roswell, they kind of co-opted that UFO word. So that UFO word, you can just see it historically. Nobody who watched that movie in the theaters in the early 60s walked out going, UFO, it meant alien. No, didn't mean alien. So aliens have become, like you said recently in one of your shows, a very profitable entertainment sector, if you will.
Oh, yeah. And by the way, people argue with me all the time about this. would it be fair to say that UFOs and the paranormal, as far as entertainment goes, is a billion-dollar industry, and that there are people making millions of dollars off of it? There's debates raging right now on Twitter. People say nobody's making millions. You don't know what you're talking about, Stephen. You tell me, Bob, because you've been to the top of the pyramid of this thing. Are people making millions selling alien and UFO stories? Is that a valid criticism?
I can only speak from one, hearing your previous shows a little bit the last few days, especially, and hearing the alleged money that a clown like Corbell could kind of generate, and whether or not he's being paid by News Nation or paid by anybody else. Look,
TMZ.
I can't speak to what these people are getting paid as what we call honorariums. Usually a TV show will say, look, we can't pay you for saying things, but we can pay you an honorarium for your time. That's one level of grifting that I would actually be horrified to believe and find out that he bought himself a $150,000 or $60,000 car, or he was able to buy a $2 million fucking house, pardon my French. If that's the case, boy, he has shot UFOs in the foot, and we're going to have to figure out how to get back from that. There isn't really an industry for researching the truth about UFOs. There's no industry for that. Guys like me, you can speak to any of the women in my life or my children. My kids are now older, now I'm college age and beyond. I'm telling you right now, it's not a way to get rich if you're trying to just get to the truth. If you want to bullshit people and you want to take advantage of people and you want to find yourself with a $2 million house somehow, if that's the truth, we'll see about that. I have very serious doubts.
Oh, yeah, actually, I want to ask your opinion on this. Listen, you're like, a television producer, filmmaker. So Jeremy Corbell, in his recent docuseries, he said, I don't get paid for UFOs, which is curious because he had a 3-film deal with Orchard.
Of course he gets paid for that. Oh, without a doubt. Froze. What happened? He's very close. Oh, wow. Hey, Siri, call Steve Cambion.
Calling Steve Cambion.
What happened? Did I lose you?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Well, it's frozen.
What shall we do?
Just give me a minute to try to fix it.
Okay.
And then
I'm sure.
if not, I'll restart a new stream and send you a new thing. I
All
apologize.
right.
I
No
don't
worries.
know what happened.
No, it's the evil anti. It's the UFO.
Yeah, it's the cabal.
You got it. They didn't like the fact that we were exposing Corbell.
I think it'll recover here in a moment.
All right, I'll do whatever you say. Don't worry, man. I'm here. Okay. Should I stay on with you? See.
Let me just get out of it and go back into it. I haven't had a stream crash in forever.
This is crazy. It's, you know what, Steve? I don't know. Coincidence? I think not.
Yeah.
Because they're talking about the money now. See, isn't it interesting? We're talking about the money, and that's when people got pissed off.
As soon as we get to the money,
yeah.
It's a problem here.
Yep.
I'm gonna shut down everything but the stream thing. And
he's saying we're still live. Manny's saying we're still live.
Yeah, we are still live, but there's nothing happening. It's frozen, so I have to get back in there and try to.
I think I'm live. I think I'm live still.
Okay. All right. Well, tell the audience I'm trying to fix it.
We're trying to get Steve back. We've lost Steve, but we're going to come back and get Steve.
We're going to come back in a moment here. I apologize.
Stand by all. Technical difficulties. Happens even at the biggest networks.
So weird. This has never happened.
Even the biggest networks.
Live issues.
We think the cabal did this.
Oh, there we go.
All right, we're back. I hope.
Oh, hold on.
That's so bizarre. Hold on.
Manny says we're still live. Thanks, Manny.
Okay, I got to work this out. I apologize to the audience. We've had some technical difficulties here. There we go.
We're back. Sorry if anybody heard anything off camera.
We started talking about the money, and the stream just took a dump. I apologize.
Can't be. But back to the point. The point I was trying to make is there's money to be made if you want to BS people. There's also money to be made if you want to do a real serious job. Unfortunately, the grifters have taken over the playing field up until recently. And I think people like Sean Kirkpatrick have really helped us get back on the right track. And part of the next round of development I'm doing for new TV shows and films are going to be getting back to the real evidence that even Arrow was tasked to look into, the historical record of UFOs. Unfortunately, Arrow was tasked with military encounters with UFOs. And if you broaden that out to the populace armed with video cameras, as I felt was happening back years ago, I think you're going to see a very different tone. So guys like Joe Rogan will say, who's very much the populace, he will say, all right, the excitement's back. Let's bring the excitement back. It's a great mystery. We all know there's something to this mystery beyond, balloons and prosaic, explanations.
Well, that's what keeps me, people occasionally ask me like, oh, Stephen, if you think so much of this is fake, why are you still here? And listen, it's not my fault. I look into every story. I keep an open mind, but so many of them turn out to be fake. So, to me, but it's the 2% that I can't explain. That's what keeps me interested. The mystery is still there for me. I don't care about balloons. I don't care about flares and all this stuff that these fake grifters are pushing. It doesn't do anything for me.
But let me go back to the money. So why is it not that money is spent on BS, and when you try to tell the truth to people, it becomes boring? Well, I think in our society, we've come to this point where we really like to be titillated. We like to be excited. And when we come in and throw cold water on some aspect of a UFO case or this whole cabal going back to 2017, when, you want to see a funny interview, and I'm calling them out right now. Ralph Blumenthal from the New York Times, stringer, more a freelance guy now, but whatever. He used to be, I think, a staff guy. He goes on that Tubi show called TMZ UFO Revolution. We'll get to the revolution in a minute. It's not the revolution. It's not the revolution they think it is. And there's Blumenthal giving credit to guys like Corbell for being the new generation of journalists. I could not believe what I was hearing from a guy that you think he had New York Times chops, right? Here's a guy who's saying as long as he got a modem, as long as he got an IP address, you can be a journalist. You know what? Maybe so, but I don't know what kind of a level we've gotten to now where just anyone at all could run around going, I am a journalist on UFOs. Guys like you work really hard, Steve. Guys like me work really hard at my end of the business. When we hear shit like that, we go, what? So
yeah, I call it the truth tax, but hey, we have a solution, Bob. Let me know what you think. I think what we're going to do here is I'm going to do something called Grift Month. And, and I'm going to do for 30 days, a whole month, I'm going to do nothing but push like ridiculous Bigfoot videos and just stupid UFOs that are obviously not, just for shits and giggles. And I jokingly said we could make enough money during Grift Month to fund us doing it the right way for the other 11 months out of the year.
Well, there might be another idea. There may be another way. I don't want you to lower your standard any more than I would. By the way, I plan to be quite successful in the next couple of years in trying to get the public back on track with this mystery and a few others, by the way, not just the UFO mystery. But when it comes to the UFO mystery, I've cut my teeth on this stuff. I've kind of like branded myself to this subject matter. It's my beat. And I take umbrage when I see people like Corbell. In fact, Corbell got my warning about 2019 or so. I was at a UFO conference. I was asked to speak there. I did. I told a little bit about my experience with Firmage and whatever I dealt with Joe Firmage on and stuff. And the next thing you know, I have a group of people around me talking about the UFO grifting. And here comes Corbell. He pokes his head right in the middle of our circle and goes, people can have whatever beliefs or opinions they want. And he walked away with this, cocky attitude. And I'll say this, if this guy's made any kind of money, then I'll make it my business to enrich myself by exposing clowns like that. And I will. But the bottom line is,
yeah, you got a bigger bullhorn than me, so I'd appreciate that.
Well, what'd you say, Steve? Say it again.
You got a bigger bullhorn than me, so I would appreciate that, because the guy with the bigger bullhorn wins.
I will bring whatever blowhorn levels I have to bring in to get these people off the playing field. They need to leave not only the field, leave the stadium, leave the parking lot, leave the state.
Yeah,
whatever it takes.
It's crazy to me that, listen, imagine in any other field of reporting that you got caught 5 times, let's say, for an example, selling completely and totally fake stories. You would be ostracized from that community. You would be banished. You wouldn't be welcome there. But these guys keep getting caught selling a completely fake story, and they just do the Cosmic Con shuffle. They come back apparently a few months later with another fake story.
Look at the most recent example. You have this kind of new cable channel that's owned apparently by a company called Nexstar, that has connections to Inside Edition, the only tabloid show still really on the air that comes back from the days that I got involved in the TV business, 27 whatever years ago, 28 years ago. Inside Edition repeats the stories that News Nation runs, and it's a cycle. It's this vicious cycle.
Yeah. And they're also, Nexstar Media is also KLAS, which George Knapp works for.
Well, that's CBS, and that's a different story, because I have a very good friend who used to run, well, not a great friend, but someone I know, who literally ran CBS News for a little while, and she told me the documentary I'm about to come out with must come out. Now, she handles Paramount documentaries. I don't know if she'll agree to take this documentary that we're now getting ready for full production, but it is going to be a eye-opener to every journalist out there that you can't copy-paste news reports and not pay the price for that. The entire story people have heard about since 2017, that ridiculous New York Times article, that's 95% wrong.
Fake. Yeah, imagine, 95% fake. Yeah.
You could take that to a journalism school and you could dissect, not like an autopsy, but yes, dissect that article and wonder how the editors of the New York Times could ever have allowed that article to be published. And then you got this guy, Blumenthal, on this ridiculous Tubi show called TMZ Investigates the UFO Revolution. And you have Blumenthal literally proud of his coverage, proud of what he did.
Proud of his false coverage. Yeah.
So I will make it's my personal mission. And I hope I do get rewarded for it the same way these other clowns were rewarded. I got bills to pay. I got family. I got people I got to take care of, for doing the right kind of job, the way you're doing the right job. And the people like Manny and other people that are working with me, we deserve the opportunity to be supported to get those things done. We have a couple of investors already in this documentary. We appreciate it very much. And we would like others to join in. Now, look, we're not Stephen Greer, okay? We're not people out there trying to make documentaries.
You don't need $500,000.
Bullshit. We just need to think of it like
need $500,000. Like, he needs $500,000 to make his documentaries that are 50% stock video from a stock video house. I never understood that.
I agree with you. But there are people that try to look at this field and look at television and covering the subject of UFOs and other mysteries. And I say, look at it like PBS. PBS needs funding. PBS is trying to do things right. Frontline, to this day,
it's the best.
One of my kids both of them are very much interested in Donald Trump, and they like Donald Trump. And I say, look, if you want to see a good story coverage of anything like that, watch Frontline. There's the owner of the New York Mets, who has been on Frontline, not in a very positive way. And one of my sons is a very big social media kind of influencer about the New York Mets, has a huge fan page, and he's bumped heads now with this guy, Steve Cohn. And the story about Steve Cohn is he was a very seriously questionable character if that's such a good English, he was a seriously, I would say, compromised individual on Wall Street, and Frontline did a huge thing on him. So it's almost like if you want to see good journalism, you may have to go to PBS. You may have to do that these days.
Yeah.
So think of us like
and
PBS.
by the way, I stole their motto. I always say we're a viewer-supported show, a lot like PBS, but I'm not giving you a mug or any other shit. Just send me money, you know.
See, I shied away.
Seeing this, you know,
I shied away from that kind of going to the public for help. But when people do what they've done, these grifters, this group from the Harry Reid group right on to the Elizondo group, Tom DeLonge in the middle of it. You know, you did a great show the other night. I saw some of it where you were commenting on how could those claims made by those characters in that U2 press conference that nobody attended, by the way, nobody was there.
Yeah, it was empty
and
hall.
literally make these claims they're going to build a spaceship to the stars to get money from investors on Wall Street. And how are they not brought to task for that now, right now? There was a woman on Capitol Hill. Her name is, well, I don't want to name her right now, but she was a congresswoman, and she literally
she mentioned this as a scam, that they need better legislation. Yeah.
She said literally it was her favorite example of a Regulation A+ stock scheme. And she said of a guy who's claiming to build a spaceship. I mean, she pointed out to the Congress on the floor, these people were wrong in every way. Nothing's happened to them. As far as I know, there's been no investigations by the SEC. There's been no investigation by the Inspector General. There's been nothing about these individuals, and they need to be taken to task.
Yeah, that's why a lot of people think that this was a government operation, because why would they get a pass on doing something that was, to most people, clearly illegal? You can't lie to investors while you're soliciting investor funds.
Sorry about that.
Oh, don't worry about it. Yeah, anyway, I forget myself. I forget.
Yeah, what I'm really trying to say is, if anybody really wants to get to the true UFO mystery that I hate to keep saying it over and over again, if a famous podcaster like Rogan is literally saying, hey, it was exciting before, now it's boring with all this other stuff, and it's, you know, they never show anything, and it's a slow drip. We have a huge database of video that we're going to be bringing into a new series that is probably coming right after this other one we're doing on this debunking of this crap we've seen. And we're going to be showing how celebrities, we believe, have gone public with their own sightings. Do you know that Kurt Russell, the famous actor, right? You know,
this guy had a crazy life. He's been involved in a lot of stuff. I could make a whole documentary just about him. Like, he's been involved in some crazy shit in history.
Listen, we broke the Phoenix Light story on the Fox Network special UFOs, the best evidence ever caught on tape I made, because we literally had it in our hands 3 months after it happened, as we're airing in the summer of '97. That's how long back I go, right? So that show profiled the Phoenix Lights case at a time when we had heard there was one private pilot we found out that had witnessed it. Who knew? We find out years later, it's Kurt Russell, the actor, with his son, who happened to see the Phoenix Lights. And it's his opinion, there was not just anything resembling flares by a mountain. He saw a ship with triangular shape and everything else. And that seems to match what the governor, Fife Symington, said years later was flying over Phoenix that night. So there's so many ways that celebrities have impacted society. And I think there's several major cases that we're going to profile in a new series, and we're going to show them how their case matches other cases caught on camera. So it's not like one person saying it. There's a preponderance of evidence that there are unknown craft coming in. And
I like that. You can find that corroborating evidence, because it holds a lot more weight than just a story from one specific event, you know?
Right, that there's a real phenomenon not the phenomenon that the ridiculous movie presented, which was Elizondo, you know, the same old crap we've been seeing, but basically a phenomenon that's gone back 70 years, maybe even, I'll say it, maybe even thousands of years. So I think we need to look at this very much with a fresh look. I'm going to be the one trying to make it happen. You know, there are people like Manny and other people, you know, that are trying to help, and we're going to bring it out. And that's just the beginning. Wait till you hear the other ideas and subjects we're getting into besides that.
Yeah, last time that we talked, you had a couple of films that were sort of in pre-production. So how are the things progressing with
Well, we have
the
a
whole
movie coming.
situation?
We have a movie coming out in a few months called Mandela Effect Phenomenon. This is about the Mandela Effect, the first full documentary that I'm aware of ever on the Mandela Effect, which seems to show the evidence, Steve, evidence.
I know this one is
Evidence.
tantalizing. I hate this one though because it
There's
gets me down
evidence.
all these rabbit holes because there's so many of these Mandela effects. The Britney Spears microphone, no microphone. There's so
Well,
many
we didn't
things.
we didn't do
The
that one, but
cornucopia, the fruit of the loom. It's crazy when you
I
start
think
going through this stuff.
I think when you see, we approached it more like lawyers. We said we have a jury out there that may not believe that this is not just misremembering. And we brought in the kind of evidence from award shows, the Oscars, famous events. You're going to see something in our documentary, Mandela Effect Phenomenon, which we believe will be probably direct to streaming. We think if it's worked for others and grifting the UFO community, we want to kind of turn things back on the right head, and we want to do it the right way by doing network television level documentaries in the world of the streaming world, because they don't have that yet. And so we got with a great distribution company that recognizes that, and we're going to turn things around from the crap the Orchard did. The Orchard led to 1091, blah, blah, blah. Those kind of crappy documentaries
Garbage pedal documentaries.
have spoiled phenomena and other type of subjects. So I understand with Mandela Effect, there's a lot of people that don't really understand how this could have happened, how you could have society and our current timeline different than we thought it was just a few years ago. And so we're going to get into it all. So that's one. The other documentary we're very, very interested in doing is what's going on in the music industry. There appears to be a demonic, I don't know what the word is. You'll have to make a new word for it. But a demonizing of the music industry, where they can literally use demonic references, demonic symbols, speak about demonic things in their lyrics. Why would very famous, great musicians that have great abilities to rap and whatever, why would they be going down this rabbit hole? Talk about rabbit holes. So there are concerts, Steve, we're going to be showing footage, concerts where literally they're worshiping the devil. There's no other way to say it. Why would they be doing that? So we have I'm kind of looking at it through the lens of,
I've always looked at that, and grown up Catholic, and I've been through the satanic panic, so I think sometimes people see things that aren't really there. But nobody can argue that in the music business, a lot of people have been using these satanic sort of imagery, and it's bizarre.
Years ago, like the former VP Al Gore's wife, Tipper Gore, was running around showing people, look, they're putting one word or two words in a song, and someone might go kill themselves. Compared to that, the danger to our young youth right now, listening to these, even the women singing about their body parts, their private parts, the way they sing about them, using guttural kind of references. We're working with a guy named Mark who has done such fascinating work on YouTube, analyzing this like a journeyman, like 26-year-old, journalist, basically. And he's done a fabulous job, and we're going to be showing a lot of his material in that. So that's just one more thing we're looking at. And, Steve, there's a lot of people that say that portals, the idea that portals are in our society now. There are two commercials now running very prominently. I'm not going to mention the companies because I don't want to give them the free advertising here. But they literally make commercials. One, in the garage, a woman is in a portal, but she called it a black hole. She meant a portal in the garage. And another one where literally they find a portal on a roadway and they decide whether they're going to go through it or not. Where did portals become so important, and when did they become so important? Well, in Mandela Effect Phenomenon, the documentary coming out in a couple of months, you're going to see that there are people at CERN in Switzerland who are talking about that they've opened up portals and they've allowed other information from other dimensions to come into our dimension, and then some of ours is leaked into the other dimension.
That's mind-bending if it's coming from CERN scientists.
These are top scientists. Why, as we say in our documentary, one of our experts says, why would the Wall Street Journal write about portals opening up the, open up to hell, portals to hell. Why would they be saying that if the scientists did not say it to the writers? The scientists gave them that information. They didn't make up these headlines themselves. So back when CERN was reopened several years ago, these articles started to get written. Stephen Hawking went public saying he didn't think it was a wise idea to power up the particle collider again. He felt that was a huge problem. So you've got to see this documentary to really get your head around it. And then there are people saying that portals tie into the UFO mystery. And then we have a case that I found out someone very much I respect, and we won't get into who he is yet, but he gave me every indication that he is aware of a case that I've been looking at since I was a young guy. 1976, June.
Yeah. Thanks, by the way. You got me down this rabbit hole. But for those unaware, I talked to Bob last week, and he sent me on this path unknowingly, and I'm on Reddit reading all this stuff, and this one is crazy. And somehow I never covered it here. So let's talk about this.
Well, my phone's blowing up now because a lot of people are starting to notice now that we're getting back to real UFO cases. This is what people are excited about, Steve. Real cases that have never been solved, with video, with evidence, with photos. Now, this case that I'm going to talk about, if you want, right now, in June of 1976, we're not talking about a few people saw this. We're talking about hundreds of people, if not thousands, saw a huge glowing orb come into the sky area above them, come down closer to the ground. The witnesses at the Spanish military did a major report on this, and the witnesses drew separately what appeared to be a huge sphere with two 10-foot tall, they're estimating, humanoid beings standing kind of facing each other inside this sphere. They drew it. It's inside the report. And you could see there's a photograph taken allegedly of the sphere that made into the newspapers in Spain. And so what you see basically is the evidence is witnesses drawing what they saw. And some of them military, some of them doctors, some of them lawyers, some of them the highest level echelon of society, drawing what they saw. And what appears to be what they saw was this sphere with these beings in it. And they were motioning to each other as they were trying to, navigate this sphere. And so that is a case that I think we need to look at. I couldn't believe out of nowhere.
Yeah, and here's some images from some of that stuff.
Someone I respect extremely, a lot. There's no doubt about that.
And so this was witnessed by hundreds of people saw this in the sky.
And the military report that I sent you, the military report is written so copiously that you'd have to wonder, how could this not be real? So they felt, in their estimation, it was a real event. Every one of the people that was interviewed was credible. There was very little reason to believe any kind of a hoax was involved. There was no one monetized it. No one went off and did a huge, like this character, James Fox, went out and researched this case, the case, the Virginia case, there was no evidence of anything in the Virginia case at all. There was nothing. He tried to convince people the town had made some kind of a effigy for this UFO event and allegedly a creature. Do you know it probably involved a cripple that was seen against the wall, and a picture was taken of the cripple, and the cripple's picture was morphed into some alien laying there. It's an awful, awful case. And there are people that believed it enough to invest. So this guy would go make this documentary, and it was really among the worst I've ever seen. If you want to have comment.
And this is the report, the government's report from, where was it?
From Spain, and the Canary Islands are very close to Spain.
And it's confidential, so I guess this has been declassified or released publicly. But
quite
an investigation. There's like 107 pages. And
it has that official kind of, every page has to be kind of like, correlated to an official stamp. This is the kind of stuff that our government rarely releases, and we should see something of this, copious nature on many cases that I want to look at, especially the one in North Dakota that I mentioned, that I really believe should be looked into. And so there are cases that involve great video, great photos, and great witnesses that our people have, young people today, my kids' age, your kids' age, they've never heard of. They have no idea. They don't even know why we're talking about UFOs anymore. They have no idea about these things. So, the old expression, what's old is new again. There's a need now to bring back the best evidence in the archive, if you will. Luckily, many of my shows have touched on these cases. So the videos are there. They're in the highest resolution. We don't have to go back to the old cameras. We don't have to find the old tape someone had. I have this in my own archive now. And we're going to bring in the highest level of analysis. And we really believe the celebrities are going to be helpful because they bring a certain kind of credibility to these things. And we're not talking about goofy stories of people saying they saw something in their bedroom, whatever. We're talking about celebrities that have either videotaped something or witnessed it next to someone videotaping it. People that have had real encounters, but they're highly credible and the public likes them. And we're going to bring them into this. If we have it our way, this would be a network show. It would not be streaming and it would not be in any way cable. It would be broadcast television.
That would be interesting. I mean, celebrities are people like everybody else. So it stands to reason that some celebrities have had some strange experiences.
It's interesting because the Jimmy Kimmels and the Jimmy Fallons of the world and the on CBS Quartet, I really believe that they have given people, even with Mandela effect, the very famous car karaoke episode of Quartet, on CBS, and literally they're singing "We Are the Champions," a song by Queen. And at the end of that song, everybody knows that Freddie Mercury said "of the world" at the end. But now the record does not end with anything but it's almost they leave out that line. But if you go to the liner notes of the album, you go to the live
and look at the lyrics, right?
It says "of the world" at the end, like everybody remembers.
Well, couldn't it be, just to play devil's advocate, couldn't it be that people are mistaking him doing that live?
No, because live he
I know he does it live. And by the way, my autistic son loves Queen. We play Queen all the time, and that's another one of those weird ones because I don't have an explanation for this.
All right, I want to make this point to you, and it ties to the UFO celeb. We're calling it UFOs among the stars. Stars being.
Oh, that's pretty good. That's snappy.
So hold on.
There.
Well, I'm calling it that. Well, I'm glad you like it for now. It's our working title. When you see how they have, even on the Mandela effect, they're literally singing "We Are the Champions." You're talking about George Clooney, by the way, who has ties to the psychic warfare movie called The Men Hysteric Goats, which is a big part of, I believe, the grifting of UFOs, which we'll get into more before we leave tonight. That movie called The Men Hysteric Goats, George Clooney starred in, profiled the psychic warfare bullshit that led to this UAP nonsense that we've seen the last 6-7 years.
Yeah, same people.
George Clooney is in the back of the car at this, whatever they call that comic karaoke thing that Quartet does. So you have Julia Roberts, Gwen Stefani. She's a musician. You think she doesn't know the song "We Are the Champions"? So literally, they're all singing the song in karaoke, which you see at the end of our documentary, and you see them about to sing "of the world," and it never happens. And then finally, Clooney goes "of the world," and they all freak out. And then Quartet goes, I always knew he said that. They always sang that. So look, we're not making this shit up. Now you're telling me, wait, 4 people, 2 famous actors, and a top singer. They're not going to notice something crazy when that was playing in their ears and they didn't hear him say at the end "of the world." So what I'm saying to you is I don't have all the answers here. I'm telling you that it's a mystery. Millions of people around the world are talking about the Mandela effect. However, when you get into the UFO mystery dealing with portals, and then you deal with CERN and the Mandela effect, and there's a guy named Gordy Rose who did something called the quantum computer. He was making predictions in 2015 or so that we already have the ability technically to take something from one dimension, that's right, a different dimension, grab it, bring that information into this dimension, and vice versa. That is exactly what the Mandela effect is essentially showing. There's some kind of change to what we thought was in this dimension, and it's replaced by something from another dimension. Now we start talking about UFOs. there's a very interesting
Yeah, because
story.
it makes sense that in the multiverse, maybe he sang it differently there, and it leaked into our version somehow.
There's a
This is
gentleman,
mind-bending stuff. Yeah.
there's a guy named Mike
If
Masterson.
plurality of worlds theory is correct, it basically means that everything you've ever done is created another dimension where you did the opposite. It's mind-bending. It's mind-bending. So
Exactly.
maybe there is something to that, and something from these other dimensions is leaking into our dimension and changing or rewriting reality.
Right. And then
It's
there's
mind-bending.
there is
Mind-bending.
and if you may know this, right before this whole brouhaha of the New York Times article in 2017 or so, just before that, the biggest rage at all the UFO conferences was portals. Portals are opening up at Mount Shasta. Portals are opening up off the coast of North Carolina. Portals are opening up here. Portals are opening up there. Portals are opening up in South America. They're called tendras or something like that. So all I know is that I was amazed when we were doing the Mandela Effect documentary, how much of the overlap between rumors of portals and UFOs. Now let's get back to the case in the Canary Islands. Apparently, sometime after that event happened, where some people claim the big sphere that started out being fairly small to just house these 10-foot humanoid creatures that were inside, ballooned out literally into a big thing before it flew off into space. But some people claim they started coming out of a portal. Some people claim they came out of a hole in the sky. There was another event after this where witnesses, again, very credible witnesses, claimed another type of sphere like this literally seemed to come out of a hole in the sky, as if like it was like a hole or a portal in the sky. Now, look, I don't know what to make of that, but I know one thing. I know there's interest in portals from very, very well-placed people in the, we'll just call it intelligence community. And there seems to be interest. What that interest is, I don't know. And I'm still trying to find out. So when I bring up the June 22nd, 1976 case from the Canary Islands, I do that with the understanding that a lot of people may not know about this case. But I never would have touched it with a 10-foot pole if it wasn't for this individual kind of teasing me that there might be something in their neck of the woods, if you know what I mean, in that neck of the woods. So I'm still digging into that part. We'll get into that later. But
well, it sounds like an interesting case. Are you gonna speak to some of the original witnesses of the case?
No doubt. If I have it my way, we will get this great source to talk about why it's an important case. I believe it is. Not just because the Defense Department of the Spanish government did a major study. I think it just speaks to the amazement of the UFO field. I don't think anybody who worked at Arrow would have taken 10 seconds to look at a case like that, right? Because it had to be the American military. But imagine if that happened in the American military area, they'd be all over that. If Arrow was, if you had an Arrow of Spain, they'd be all over that. So,
yeah, I think they would. Yeah.
Some of the witnesses were on a military ship, I should add. That's another reason. So in other words, there were witnesses in the military that witnessed this, not to mention other officialdom and even taxi cab drivers and people of everyday, doctors and lawyers and stuff like that. So I believe it's like the Close Encounters. It could be a movie. I said to someone back in the 90s when I was doing my shows for Fox, I said in the 2000 period, I said, how can we do something on that case? What can we do with that case? And there was only one photo. There was one photo. I did not know about the drawings, and I didn't know about the military having those drawings in their own document. So I didn't know about that. That's all.
Yeah, that is definitely interesting. So this is another of these. So you have the Mandela Effect film, and then you have this project with the. I think that's a great name. Like,
well, let's get back to the main. Let's get back to the core. Yeah, the celebrity angle is going to freshen up what we are going to do on the first documentary, which we believe is a series. We're calling it UFOdyssey. It's like an odyssey. It's an odyssey of corruption, of potential interesting subject matter like UFOs, people grifting, fake documentary makers, companies like the Orchard that come along with no sense of like what is real and what's not. They don't care. You make a documentary, you give it to us, we'll put it up on iTunes. Woo, see what happens. No,
well, you know it's bad when they're taking documentaries from like Corey Good and David Wilcock. You know, like, come on, like, really? I would throw them out of my office if I was in charge of that company.
The people that really have to start being concerned, I think, are the Stephen Greers and the Corbells and the people that were enabled by the Orchard to get a level of credibility based on their, I'm not even going to call them documentaries. They're like their pet projects that they
infotainment,
whatever. I mean, if I hear one more time from this guy Greer anything, I'm going to always remind him, you're the guy who came to my office at Unsolved Mysteries, piggybacking on somebody else's meeting, and you're literally telling me back then that you're going to become the biggest guy in UFOs. And you've got all these contacts. We're talking 1993. Okay? That's how far Greer's been trying to build himself into this UFO.
Yeah, didn't he basically tell you he was going to be the big UFO guy? He basically told you that.
He's going to go from emergency technician to UFO guru for the world. And he stated that to me. Wow. So if this is somebody that we are going to be looking at in our documentary series, which we are, you better get ready.
Yeah, well, I got an awful lot of information I could share with you about that.
We'd love to hear it. In fact, we would love to have anybody right now that feels this is a time to come clean on the truth of this subject of UFOs, which we all think is fascinating. This is the time to do it. Get in touch with me. Get in touch with my staff. We're going to be shooting very shortly. And like I said, I hate to say it, but Steve, I know Steve needs money for his work. But I think when it comes down to this documentary, we may have to make it, if worse comes to worse, the PBS way, by asking for grants and asking people to help. But if you're interested in this subject matter, especially, take it seriously. So we have a couple of really good people involved already. We think we'll be able to go forward. We also think it could end up being something like a Netflix series. So
that would be awesome.
We're just trying to get the first round of production going. And we had to wait out this crazy grifting going on and this crazy Capitol Hill nonsense to kind of die down. And now it's died down, we think, to the point of, like you said recently, I mean, come on. I mean, how could this guy Grush even appear anywhere? He hasn't literally shown anything. Corbell's harping a jellyfish. It could be a bag floating in the wind. I mean,
it's pretty ridiculous.
When is there time to step up now and help people like you, people like me? So
I try. Listen, I really do try to support people that are doing good work. Like, I'm going to be donating some money to a couple of research institutes, that I think are doing excellent investigatory kind of work. And one of the things I wanted to ask you about, and this is a selfish endeavor, but I could use some advice here. I've been saying it over and over again on my show, and I've made a few zero budget documentaries so far. And the next one is this one, Lazar, the rest of the story nobody bothered to tell you, because I've been saying it so much on my show. The reason that the story works is because Corbell purposefully leaves out all the information that would show you that this guy is a complete and total fraud. And he knew all this information.
There is not one shred of evidence that this guy had a government job deciphering a UFO or
any government job. There's no proof he ever worked for the government.
And guys like George Knapp and Kayla.
They call him government scientist, former government scientist. Like, he's a fake scientist, a convicted pimp. He's not a real scientist, first of all. And second of all, how can you call him a government scientist when you can't prove or establish that he actually ever worked for the government in any capacity?
It's a sad statement of our world that you could have a story that died essentially in the early 90s. It died. The story was dead. And because Corbell digs into the George Knapp library, the next thing you know, the Lazar story is big. So people accept it like it never went through the journalistic hurdles before. It did, and it got squashed like a bug. You've got guys like Stanton Friedman who would have believed almost anything related to a UFO case like that.
Yeah, and it was surprising he didn't jump on that.
Debunked it. He
He
debunked
burned
it.
it to the ground, that
The
story.
easiest,
Yeah.
the easiest way you could. Our information is this, and it should be part of your Lazar, the rest of the story project. He had a job really dealing with refuse, garbage, literally. He had a job dealing with garbage. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the story we're hearing from the people that know where he worked, what he did, and why he even had any kind of a name recognition on any kind of a phone list. He had a job basically dealing with crap. So that's what we understand. Now, I don't know if anyone's ever proved it out. I don't know if
Yeah, there's also some evidence that he had a contract dealing with radiation health monitors around some of these places, but there's no clear evidence. All the evidence seems to show the whole thing falls apart. Yeah,
but it gets worse. Then you go because the Bob Bigelow grifting and scamming was going. Or the people around him. Bob Bigelow doesn't need to grift, but the people around him.
Everybody was trying to scam him for money.
It's like George Knapp sat down with Corbell and went, I'm sure it didn't happen exactly that way, but hey, what about Skinwalker Ranch? Let's resurrect that. And they resurrected that to the point where they make a TV show called Skinwalker Ranch on History Channel, which has to be one of the biggest jokes I've ever seen in the world.
Did you know too that Brandon Fugel, he did some kind of legal wrangling, and you're not allowed to write a book and use that term Skinwalker Ranch, or make a documentary and use that term. Like, for example, if you or I wanted to make a documentary about all the fakery, fraudery, and bullshittery around Skinwalker Ranch, we couldn't use that word. Somehow he's got word locked down. You can't.
We'll see what Brandon wants to do.
Well, you probably have access to better lawyers and legal advice than me. So
unfortunately, Brandon is a big threatener. He likes to threaten people. He likes to make them feel like he's got the wind at his back with all kinds of legal people. Look, dude, when you're a fraud, you're a fraud. Okay. If you are trying to emulate the Joe Firmage story to some degree by being the guru of all things alien, phenomenal, anti-gravity, and all that, if you want to be that guy, you got to keep your stuff buttoned up. You got to have facts behind you. You have to have good evidence behind you to go and perpetrate that Skinwalker Ranch show on the public. History Channel should be a little bit ashamed, and so should he. So I really believe that. And that's my feeling. And so when you get into this field, and ironically, I bumped into Brandon Fugel in a way that was, hey, some people I was researching with at the time. Actually, we were researching the case called the Roosevelt UFO case, which has become the gimbal video. The gimbal video that these guys released was shot by a person associated with the Roosevelt aircraft carrier. And we were researching that part of the scamming going on. And some of our researchers discovered that the new owner of Skinwalker Ranch was this guy. So we started to figure out that, wait a minute, the Skinwalker Ranch documentary made by good old Brandon Fugel, no, excuse me, not Brandon, made by
Knapp and Corbell, yeah.
Corbell, there's a scene where you can literally see the person they're interviewing. And some evidence was put together, and before you know it, these guys I was working with figured out it must be him.
So you're the reason that he had to go public, I guess, or stop.
I was very, I honored what he asked.
Actually,
no, I honored.
But isn't it public records when a property gets sold who it got sold to? But he could have put some kind of shell. He could have put some kind of shell company together to buy it, so his name wasn't right on the deed or title transfer or whatever that was.
Exactly, but let's be clear. There's been no evidence of anything phenomenal occurring at Skinwalker Ranch. Even if you want to take in what I was privy to, what I was able to see, what they presented to, guess who? Some government staffers at Skinwalker Ranch. There's nothing there that anyone could even remotely call scientific evidence, okay? But even with all that said, and even though we did uncover who the new owner was, I honored the request he gave me, which was do not give his name out. I did not. So could you imagine how shocked I was when he becomes the star of Skinwalker Ranch?
Yeah.
I'm
So
like,
much
wait a
for
minute. Aren't you the guy who said, please don't tell anyone I'm the owner of Skinwalker Ranch? It hurt my family, hurt this, hurt that. And then you pop up as the host of the show? I'm so confused. I don't know.
Yeah, and by the way, there's an awful lot of controversy right now. I don't know if you were aware, but Expanding Frontiers Research did these right to know requests to find out how much that local town was paying these guys to do this phenomenon, and they gave them heavily. It's just they blacked out all the pages of the contracts and gave that. And now they're going to court to force the local government to tell everybody how much money these guys took the local government for.
It's about time.
And and by the way, that's one of those organizations that I'm donating to support good investigative journalism and good work in this field.
But let me try to bring people back to reality about the truth of entertainment in this world. Entertainment that throws water on things people want to believe, it's hard to sell that on to people. People don't want to see, like Rogan said, come on, you killed a very exciting subject, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, so in many ways, people don't love the front lines of the world when it comes to this subject matter. They want to believe. But my view is I hate this term I heard years ago coming up in the business. Well, you know, most of it's 95% bullshit. Hold on. Let's not be so quick to put things into numbers and categories. But it's true. You have to remove all the BS to finally get to what's really true and it's really worthy of a societal, change or societal what's the expression they use a lot, like a paradigm shift. You have to have something extraordinary. The evidence has to be extraordinary, like Carl Sagan said years ago, to make any kind of movement in society. And usually you got to put out a lot of fires before you get to the real thing. So unfortunately, most people don't want to do the heavy lifting like you. You do the heavy lifting. I do the heavy lifting. I've been in deep research now for a few years trying to figure out how are we going to tell the UFO story properly now? How are we going to deal with this stuff when Congress gets pulled in? When you have this woman like, I'm not going to mention the woman, but she's on the UAP front. She's a congresswoman. She is somehow the mouthpiece now for the believing Congress people that believe that there's a lot to this other UAP stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like you want to cry. You want to go, you're a congresswoman, for Christ's sake. I mean, you're somebody we value as a society because you got elected. Where's your brain? Why would you believe David Grush about anything?
Yeah, don't you think they really screwed the pooch on this Grush thing? Because
they did.
They basically have set this thing back like at least 20 years. Because if this guy doesn't produce evidence, they're going to just basically say, yep, it's all bullshit. And everybody that says this stuff is a wackadoo. And they're not going to put any more time, energy, and investigatory work into it. They're going to set it back because it gives the government an excuse. Like, hey, this high-ranking guy came here. He wasted all the time of all these congressmen and senators making these wild claims. And what is his evidence? Some wackadoo friends of his told him this shit that just so happened to be in the government.
Steve, who's going to it's going to require the front line of UFOs. That may be me, Manny, and the people I work with in my staff. We may have to be the front line of UFOs to correct this and call out the Congress people that gave any kind of believability to this stuff.
Yeah, certainly. I thought about doing a story about that.
You have to. I'll be calling in this order probably Gillibrand in New York, the Florida woman I just mentioned, and every one of the Congress people who went public believing this ridiculous non-evidence chain from day one. And they need to be brought to task. They have to stand up and say, look, I was fooled. I didn't know. I was not privy to the right information. I didn't know this field. They have to do that because that will at least keep things on a level playing field. If you don't do that, we're going to have a nutty society. in many
Yeah,
areas, by the way,
yeah.
not just one, not just UFOs.
And I like Rubio too, who said, well, there's either something to this or we've got a lot of people in government that are wackadoos. Basically,
Well,
that is
that's
paraphrasing, but that's what he said. And it's looking more and more like there's a lot of people in government that are wackadoos.
Why would you say looking?
Now they're talking about, oh, it's angels and demons. That's why
Well,
they're using the term interdimensional, because they
why are
don't
you
want to say
afraid of it?
angels and demons.
Steve, why are you
It's
afraid
bizarre.
to say the obvious? It's now been concluded. The people that confirmed and concluded, the people that were around Harry Reid and Bob Bigelow are the people that perpetrated this fraud on America. It also led to the fraudulent Skinwalker Ranch show on History Channel that should absolutely be brought into the mix, because when the people at Arrow go public with their latest report, I can guarantee you there's going to be some alluding to this complete carryover of the Harry Reid
to
Ranch.
Skinwalker, TTSA, now Grush.
The only thing the New York Times could have written in 2017 with any credibility was, headline, $22 million was earmarked toward Bob Bigelow to study alleged phenomena occurring at this property called Skinwalker Ranch,
which he owned. That
There's
doesn't
no
make any
other
sense.
UFO case. There's no other UFO study. There's no Elizondo running around with a team of people going to UFO crash sites or UFO sightings. Never.
Yeah, well, he did run the Pentagon UFO program in the land of make-believe.
Exactly. In his own
one
mind.
of the things that kills me is the man stood there and claimed that he ran a sensitive government, UFO program for 10 years. There would be a mountain of paperwork if he really did that. There's no paperwork. And in fact, he had no assigned responsibilities around UFOs in the Pentagon. And whatever work he was doing for the Pentagon was so unimportant that shortly after he left, they deleted all his emails and files as not historically significant or important enough to save. Right. Therefore, he's a nobody. He was a pencil pusher that worked at the Pentagon. Congratulations. And don't you think it's crazy? I have a plan, Bob. If he markets this book, if this book comes out and he says that he ran a Pentagon UFO program for 10 years in the book, or to market the book, I have a plan for what I'm going to do. And I think everybody should. You can't lie through your teeth like that to market a book.
That's why the front line of UFOs, this documentary, maybe we should sort of call it that, UFOdicey, and the series that we believe it'll be, we will call out everyone and ask them to be interviewed, explaining why they would have got behind things like this, just for what ratings for a CNN. CNN literally has Elizondo look into the camera and said, I believe this is alien. He says it literally to the public. And I ran this program in the early days of the coming out, after the article came out in the New York Times. CNN literally has this guy's face blown up big, saying this right to the camera. And CNN needs to come back and go, we were fooled. We were bamboozled. We need to correct the record.
Well, it does seem like there's a shift in the media. Like there's been a couple of articles in the past week or more, maybe 2 weeks, that are basically painting the picture that you and I are talking about. Like the same
there's
group
a reason.
of people, and the media is so slow, and they'd rather just copy paste and not actually investigate anything. They're so slow to come around. But I think we're at a turning point here where these guys are going to have a lot harder time pushing nonsense now.
No one has been, in my opinion, should be given more credit and really for standing up. Sean Kirkpatrick, who used to run Arrow.
Yeah.
He has stated now, upon leaving Arrow, is 100% supporting the kind of research we have done, that you have done, that the regular media is afraid to get into, is afraid to admit they were just doing it for clickbait or whatever they were doing it for. It's important for them to stand up and say, look, we want people to believe the stories we do. We don't want to be held as like, people, grifting. When news people should not be grifting. That's insanity. When news people start grifting.
Well, listen, the old model isn't working for them anymore. And in this new media landscape, everything changed since television. Everything has changed now. But so they gotta do that clickbait garbage to stay in business, I guess.
Well, even though a cable channel is fairly new, like this News Nation, even though we could say what we want about that, We have people that the society has known for years. You know, this guy, Chris Como, his father was governor of New York. He's not a dumb guy. He bought in on this stuff, figuring it was some kind of cover up by the government.
Yeah, he's doing his own podcast with all the grifters, UFO
when he
grifters.
goes out and says, which I hope he'll do, which I'll encourage him to do in the next few days and weeks to come and be interviewed in our documentary, he'll say, look, Bob, it wasn't my field. I don't know it. Our producers didn't know it. We were bamboozled. When he admits that, the credibility of this whole news industry gets an uptick. And we need that right now. As a journalist myself, I'm embarrassed to call myself a journalist in America today. It is absolutely a sham. We need to become better, and it's important. When we have things like possibly, North Korea threatening us on the West Coast, we've got Putin in Europe trying to become the next Hitler in many ways. We got to be careful now.
It's scary, yeah, scary times, But I think that's why some of this stuff works so well, because it's a distraction from reality. So people get really deep into the rabbit hole,
Well, one thing we'll show in UFO Odyssey, not to cut you off, Steve, but one of the things we're going to show in UFO Odyssey, the series, the popularity in the 90s, late 90s to the mid 2000s, even after 9/11, the popularity in UFOs is so many more times bigger than the popularity today. What you're seeing now is a small sliver of interest in UFOs put out by these kind of like shammers and scammers and whatever. But the overall population is still hugely interested in the subject. They just are getting turned off by the
scam squad, yeah.
And this whole Capital Dog and Pony show, which I give Joe Rogan a lot of credit for finally saying, it's like, we don't want to see this boring Congress people, slow drip, blah, blah, blah. It's killing an exciting subject that as a race of people, we need to get to the bottom of if we can. And if we can't, let's just try as hard as we can. Why not? It's exciting.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Yeah.
And by the way, 15 videos. I will be glad not to cut you off there. I want you to hear this. 50 videos that have never been solved with names, provenance, where they were, most still alive if it was a while back. And like I said, this 2003 video shot over this guy's house in Phoenix needs to be seen by Capitol Hill.
I want to see it.
If it's not a ship from God knows where, it's the most elaborate drone in 2003 you ever could have imagined.
Yeah, and drones weren't very common back then.
If we have a disc-like drone with a dome on top and a weird kind of electronic thing happening above it, you have to see this to believe it. In a bright, beautiful blue sky day, sharp camera, all caught in camera. And we're looking at
so you're going to have 50 videos like this?
No, this is the creme de la creme. This is the best of, and I've never aired it yet. I've never aired it on television. I've kept it kind of like in the inner sanctum.
In the vault.
Yeah.
Break it out of the vault, Bob. We want to see this
we
shit.
We know yeah, but we know people that have tried to either air it or just show it as kind of eye candy. This has got to be looked at frame by frame. And the fact that it's all caught in camera. Another in camera one is the famous Area 51 video. I have the exclusive contact to leak the video. I showed him in silhouette on the Fox special UFOs Caught on Tape, Best Evidence Caught on Tape #1. I showed him in silhouette because he was afraid of government reprisals. Since then, this individual has been in contact with me, and I want him to go public and tell the story of how he leaked the video from Area 51. And if you don't remember the video, I'll remind you about the video. It's this clear shot of the mountain range. This UFO comes in over the mountain range. The military analysts are in their room. You hear the audio of the people go, "What is that? What is it? Well, I don't know. What is?" And it comes in. It does some weird maneuvering. It morphs from a hat shape to a clover shape, all caught on camera, and then flies away, all with the readings flying away, showing how fast it went. It went something like 6 miles in a few seconds. It is an extraordinary video. And again, people are going to learn how many millions of people at that time were fascinated by this video. And then it goes off. We never hear about it again. These are the kind of cases that we're going to be talking about. There's a case in Israel where it looks like a building in the sky. That's right, a building in the sky is floating over this kibbutz. Two guys caught it on camera for we're talking like a half hour. It wouldn't leave. It's got this really weird configuration. It's got marks and symbols on it. It's an unbelievable video. And when's the last time you heard about that? Never, right?
Yeah,
So
no, I haven't heard of that case.
We had it in the second UFO special. There was a time when you could bring on people like I did. Admiral Bobby Ray Inman, former director of the National Security Agency.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy for sure.
Deputy director of the CIA. He was good enough to appear in front of my cameras and point out these videos and say, that's interesting. I don't know what that is, but that intrigues me. Former top spook of our country, who, by the way, years before was accused of covering up his own UFO knowledge. I don't think he was covering up anything. I think he knows there are certain programs and there are certain analyses that are done that he was very intrigued by. Now, he wasn't going to tell me everything he knows that way, but by the way he told our cameras what he believed about these videos, that should make everyone from celebrities to politicians to anyone take notice. And so we're going to make sure we show that stuff in the next round of productions.
Oh, that sounds great to me. Sounds interesting.
And I think
I'm interested in that. I'll watch the Mandela one and interested in that, but I am a lot more interested.
Well, Mandela's going to
what you got in the vault that you're going to be cracking out for this UFO one. You know, you probably have some collected this stuff for decades, right? You've been sitting on a lot of this.
We went down to Puerto Rico. And we were the first people to ever do any story on the Aguadilla UFO in Puerto Rico, where the UFO did come out of the water. All our witnesses are telling us came out of the water, floated above the sky, above the ocean for a little while off the northern tip of Puerto Rico, the northwestern part. Literally flew over this airport, the Aguadilla airport, went into the water and was caught by a Homeland Security camera coming out of the water and splitting into two as it comes out of the water. Now, what technology do we have that shows on camera it going through the air effortlessly and then going through the water effortlessly? Water should stop it from the friction, right? So again, it's a great video that needs to be seen. We've never done it for network television or even any other television, really. And we're going to do it. We're going to do it for this show. So again, that was 2000. That was there in 2017, 18 period. But I really believe people need to see this video. And you know what? Those guys, Corbell and a few other people, when they realized they didn't have any great video to show anybody, what did they show people the last couple of years? The Aguadilla video. And they didn't even analyze it or anything. They did show it like eye candy. So again, there are several great cases. I won't say everything tonight, but many, many new cases. We've now put together 150 new videos shot over the last year or two that we are now processing and being able to put into new TV productions. So people are going to be seeing some stuff they've never seen before, and it's being recorded all over the world.
Oh, it sounds great.
My phone's only blowing up. I can't seem to shut the audio on this. My phone is blowing up because people are starting to say, yes, finally, let's get to the real UFO mystery, Steve. And you've been an extraordinary help. And I mean that sincerely.
Oh, thank you. You're a part of my childhood too, Bob. And you always make me think of my dad because my dad and me, we were not like close really, and we like had just completely different interests. But one thing we always agreed on was Unsolved Mysteries. So
by the way,
we could watch that together without killing each other and
I did
talk about the cases.
I did some of the biggest UFO stories at Unsolved Mysteries, but I want to tell you, it was only the real video that drove me to do those stories. So every one of the stories I did Unsolved Mysteries, whether it be the Guardian UFO landing in Canada or the Mexico UFO wave of 1991, that was a major event, one event caught during a solar eclipse. I mean, Jaime Maussan made an entire career after that of grifting. But there was a moment when Jaime Maussan was a good journalist looking at real videos from Mexico.
Oh, I couldn't believe that. You're kidding me.
Well, you know what? I
This is
recognize.
in the beginning of his career, right? That's what happens. In the beginning, some guys are genuine and they have good intentions in the beginning, but then they
Right.
get worse the deeper they're in, a lot of them.
Well, I will never turn away from being a credible journalist. I will never turn away. I may have to live in the frontline reality for years. I don't know, PBS. I hope not. But I do believe some of these things, like a movie about the case near Spain, the Canary Island case, that could be a feature film. And these are the kind of things that I think writers should be thinking about, taking cases that are real. And you don't have to do much. The reason I mentioned the Unsolved Mysteries situation was the head of the show, John Cosgrove, came up to me once and said, we don't even have to do a recreation on that case, And so I said, you see, you're trying to save money.
You have the film, yeah.
Right, but I think he was really talking about the production angle. But I was thinking to myself when I went back to my desk, no, as a journalist, I want to hear that. I don't want to hear recreations. Do you know, Steve, there was a time when you wouldn't see any kind of recreation, anything in news reports. And now you're seeing recreations done all the time on 48 Hours or 2020 or whatever. So the idea
the new Unsolved Mysteries does that too. It's all
I'm
recreations.
I'm not a big fan of the new ones. I told him.
Yeah, I tried to give it. I gave it a chance. I didn't like it. There was something just like totally different format.
They decided to change the essence of the show, which was
I know.
Stack,
Robert Stack is God bless him, may he rest in peace. But they should have got a new Robert Stack like character. They should have just continued with that. That formula for Unsolved Mysteries, the great music, it all works so well. And to come back, and by the way, everybody I asked about that new Unsolved Mysteries says the same thing that you're saying or I'm saying. It's not the same. They changed it too much. They ruined the format. It's just
too many
they did a terrible job. You know,
if something's not broken, don't fix it. There's no reason to fix that. But I don't know if they couldn't resurrect Robert Stack. But the one thing they really did was they lost that kind of
the edge.
That edge, that feeling of you'd almost want to
mystery and spooky edge is gone.
I hope to bring that back, Steve. That's something I know. So by the way, one of my favorite moments ever working for that show was when Robert Stack came on camera and said, if not for this video, and he's holding the video, it's the phone, but he's holding the video in his hand, essentially saying we would not be doing this story if not for this video. And that was the Guardian video. Now, the Guardian case to this day is one of the most misunderstood cases I've ever seen. The a small Canadian production crew did a documentary for an hour on the Guardian case a few years ago. It is probably the worst piece of television documentary making I've ever seen. It was one particularly young guy who remembered watching my show, the episode I produced for Unsolved Mysteries called the Canadian UFO Guardian UFO case. He had a real love of that as a kid, but he wanted to get into it as an older guy. So he came to this Canadian company and they said, okay, we'll just follow you investigating it. It was just a terrible job because the Guardian UFO case to this day is one of the most photographically inexplicable cases you ever see. There it is. This is a craft. You got it. That is what it is. It is a dome. It is a circular craft with appendages, with some kind of landed. We don't know what's going on the left, kind of fires, some of the signal flares going on. There are 4 sequences. And the most important one is when this individual called the Guardian, whoever he is, comes upon this hill looking into it from this angle. And you see it for all. There's Bruce Maccabee, one of the top experts on UFOs ever. He critiqued this case and he told people that anyone who thought it was not what it appeared to be, like this Canadian armed RCMP guy, he said this guy's explanation that it was some kind of a helicopter is a ridiculous. Here it is. A ridiculous explanation. So this is my Fox special, UFOs Caught on Tape #1. So this is what people need to get ready for. These type of cases, I'm bringing back. And you're going to be seeing a lot more.
Yeah, I'm not very familiar. I remember this, but I'm not very familiar with what.
What does that look like to you, Steve? What was that?
Looks like a spaceship to me. Yeah. But I thought I heard that it was like lights and ambulances.
By who?
Or something.
Who told you that?
I don't know. I'm just coming off of memory. This is a very old case from my childhood.
The head of the show, although he said initially it was his case, that we wouldn't have to. There's Bob Nathan, top image processing expert from NASA. You know what he said on this case? He could never explain the lighting and luminosity. He has no idea if somebody would fake those lightings in any way. And it is still on record at NASA for a UFO investigation by a NASA expert. It's in their files. You could probably FOIA request it, the analysis he did on this case for me and Unsolved Mysteries. So
it definitely looks interesting. Now, but now you open the can of worms because my audience is going to demand that I do a deep dive on this thing.
You should. And by the way, there are suspects who may have done this hoax, but no one's ever explained what created this. No one can explain the blinking light. No one can explain the fastness of the light. It's not like a typical thing. You know, it's backlit by the fire or whatever is going on around it. And also behind it, we have some kind of, shape that we can see. So again, it's
definitely bizarre. And I certainly remember this.
4 different sequences, and it had intrigue. It had a person named Guardian who put his thumbprint, a fingerprint on the tape, which was very intriguing. And this was sent to 2 UFO researchers that were in contact with me at the time. So I had just done a story about Area 51 in New York. There's the fingerprint. So this is all a good point. So what'd you cut to? Bob Exler. We lost him just a couple of years ago. And he's the kind of guy, listen, he's the kind of guy that you may have problems with, but he stuck to his story forever, that this was sent to him in the mail by an unknown source. There's no reason to believe otherwise. Now, there are people that will say that I'm wrong, that it's a hoax, and they can show us. But when you see how we're going to tell the story about how this was literally given to the world, it's a fascinating story. It really is.
Yeah.
And by the way, again, it's just one of 50 cases of this level that have never been solved. When you see the actual video, this is Diana Lebanek. She owned the house, the property where this thing landed, and she witnessed it allegedly coming and going. And then some people say, oh yeah, it might be, some hoax or all. No one's ever been able to show it to be a hoax. No one's ever been able to show how it was created. No one's ever been able to emulate it in any way, shape, and form.
I think you ought to have Mick West do an analysis of this.
Yeah, good old Mick. We'll have been fun with it. By the way, Mick should look at this case. I like Mick.
Yeah, I'll send it. I can send it to him. Yeah.
But I got to tell you, Unsolved Mysteries didn't want to do any. There's one of the alleged witnesses. Unsolved Mysteries wanted to do a recreation anyway. They wanted to show it coming and going instead of just hovering or what it was and you see in the video. Like the witness, Diane Lebanek, said it was. So literally, they went out and we tried to recreate this. We couldn't come even within a scintilla of closeness to make this video. So
that's interesting. You got a pretty big budget with.
Oh, we tried. You'll see in the Unsolved Mysteries episode that if you want me to come back and I'll get the okay to show it from the people at the show. What's really weird is they did a little Hitchcockian thing on me. The producer of the episode who worked with me, the field producer, he wanted me to be in it. So I play the part of the Guardian. You see me, I'm the Guardian.
That's pretty awesome.
Young Bob. But anyway, not Bob Exler, but me, Bob Kiviat. So anyway, those are just a sampling of what we're talking about.
Yeah, sounds like you got it.
That's ready there. Look at you. How'd you have all that stuff ready?
I just Googled it and searched for videos and got lucky, honestly.
How'd you find my show, though? That was pretty cool.
I just Googled it. I Googled Guardian case video and clicked on video, and that was one of the first results.
I gotta see where.
So it's still on YouTube. Yeah, make sure you're getting paid. There's a lot of YouTube pirates out there. Oh, one other thing I have to ask you, because we just did an episode on this alien interview, and people are still arguing with me. The whole case is got all these proven hoaxer scammers involved in it. Bob Dean, who is a proven hoaxer, Sean David Morton, who's got superpowers and was arrested for defrauding all these old ladies out of their retirement money. He spent time in federal prison. We've got Wendell Stevens, who is a twice convicted kitty toucher. I don't want to say the P word. It just feels like the whole case falls apart. We showed on our show that when you remove this guy's voice disguiser, it's the same person asking the questions that's answering them as this Victor character.
Steve,
And I believe that you did the alien autopsy. They must have saw how much money or how much, popular it was. And I think they went, let's do something like that. And somebody created this thing. We showed that the alien was a puppet, and there's a shirt sleeve that you can see that's empty on its side of it. But this guy, Jon Stewart, is still adamant that it's real, and he doesn't.
So do you want to know the real story? Do you want to know?
I want to hear this. You've got to tell me, Bob, what you know about this story.
Whatever the wrestler Jon Stewart has to say, these are the facts. After Alien Autopsy was a big hit, I was approached by a guy named Tom Coleman. Tom Coleman said he wanted a meeting at Fox. I said, look, I have meetings at Fox all the time. If you want me to bring this to a meeting at Fox, I will. I don't know what he's claiming about Fox Studios and all that bullshit. What really did occur is Tom Coleman, the owner of that company, what was it called again?
Rocket Pictures. LLC.
Rocket Pictures.
Yeah.
Tom Coleman made a pitch, showed the footage. We laughed, and he left. We would never have touched it. However, when their video came out, it became a little bit of a copycat thing. Like the alien autopsy video was very popular too. The video of my show with some more footage and all that. So their video had become a little bit known. So when I did my second show called UFOs, the best ever caught on tape #2 for Fox, we showed the footage. And we had my host, Jonathan Frakes, walk the viewer through the obvious. We didn't sit there and analyze it. We said, this is what people are seeing. But we knew it was ridiculous. It was not an expose type of show. We weren't about to do a deep dive like we're going to do with UFO Odyssey into all the grifting and scamming going on from government and back and forth. But we probably should have, to be quite honest with you. We did meet Jeff Broadstreet. I spoke to Jeff Broadstreet just about 2 months ago about this. He told me Jon Stewart approached him and blah, blah, blah. Look, it's really another way to scam people. I don't think Jeff is involved in scamming anybody. I know you feel he might be the voice I heard. He'd probably get a kick out of that. And you should probably get Jeff on. Jeff's probably willing to talk to you. I bet he would be.
Yeah, I couldn't believe how well attended that show was. So there's obviously still interest. But here's the people directly involved. Jim
They're paid.
They're fake image analysts. We've got Sean David Morton, convicted fraud felon. Robert Dean, never proved anything. Original claims proven to be a hoax. Wendell Stevens, convicted felon, convicted child M, multiple underage victims, and the Billy Meyer hoax promoter. So, a part of me, Bob, at some point says, if these are the people bringing us this thing, why do I even have to go any further to analyze anything? Or to prove anything.
It's a mile away.
Look at this. It's so stupid.
If you
pay this guy, John, is going full balls. He's all balls in trying to make a documentary about this being real. And I say good luck to him.
I can't even imagine what would have motivated this guy who was a wrestler to take on this case with this kind of level of interest and passion. It is fascinatingly crazy. It is so insane. I
agree to talk to him, And I only yelled at the guy one time. I lost my patience at one time. I was going to scream at him through the whole 2 hours,
You see, there were people that called me up, even some of my brother. I have a younger brother in New York, and he sent me some videos recently that clearly are fake. They have military, background scenery, and they're not real because the military would have gone public with this stuff if you have UFOs circling there, flying saucers circling and stuff. So we did a little deep dive because my brother sent me these videos, and we found out there's like a cottage industry now of people making fairly believable videos, which are like the deep fake version, like deep fakes of celebrities, fake face. They're not the real people, but they're seen in very salacious scenes and things like that. Have you heard about these deep fakes happening?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, and by the way, Bob, part of we've been working on, we have a friend here who's big into AI, and we've been doing these face swaps and some other stuff. It's going to be wild what's coming.
Oh, it's crazy. You're not going to be able to, you're right, Steve. You're not going to be able to know what's real or what's not without a very serious, almost scientific ability to know that in the future. Courtrooms are going to have a level of detail.
Think about what that's going to do to politics. You could make Trump or Biden say anything you want. Say anything you want.
We're already there. This particular election cycle coming up this year is going to test this deep fake AI thing like you've never seen before, but it probably will give us a little barometer of where we're headed. But I do think when it comes to UFOs, people call me up to this whole grifting period. Let's call the 2017 New York Times article to today, whatever period that is.
The grifting period, yeah.
The grifting period. And I'm getting calls from people, hey, Bob, why aren't you getting involved? Why don't you make it? If I don't have anything new and important to state, I'm not going to make something up just because I got to pay my bills. I'll find some other things to do as a producer and a writer and director to do. But in the meantime, I had to wait this out as you had to wait it out. You had to wait for like a guy like Sean Kirkpatrick to finally leave Arrow and go, okay, here's the deal.
Here's the deal. Yeah.
So
yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was about to say that I've tried my best to reach out now to the people that are, in many ways working with Sean. And I'm trying to see if Sean will come on this documentary series, because I think his credibility is so critical. It's so critical. He's taken barbs, arrows. Do you know, he told someone on that podcast he was on recently that a guy came to his house. He had to have arrested.
Yeah, some nutter showed up in his house with his wife.
Crazy, So,
well, people have threatened that. People have threatened that to me, but nobody has been dumb enough to actually do that.
Because they feel you're not.
That'd be a very dangerous thing to do, to come to my house and threaten my family. Yeah.
Well, they're not doing it because they want you to go get the truth of UFOs. They're doing it because it's like, oh, come on, you're lying. You're keeping it from the public, whatever.
Oh, yeah, I'm CIA. Sure, yeah. I'm part of the cover-up. I'm a disinformation agent. I did want to ask your opinion. I have a funny thing to close with.
Sure.
Because of the alien autopsy video, by the way, it's all your fault. That whole thing.
I know, it's my fault.
Anyway, but I love that growing up. I just remember growing up, everybody in my whole city, everywhere you went, everybody was talking about this thing. And but what happened since then is that alien autopsy, your work there, sort of popularized people trading on the internet videos that may show an alien being. And I have kind of a funny one that I wanted to share with you because this one is making the rounds. Like, this one has been making the rounds, and people are making all kinds of.
Let's see it, Steve.
I'm trying to. Oh, wait a minute. Here, I gotta get rid of this.
By the way, while you do that, remember, world's greatest hoaxes, secrets finally revealed for the Fox network. 3 years later, we debunked it thoroughly. A year after that, we found the guy, John Humphrey.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I think everybody's aware of that.
Yeah. We just showed it was a breaking story that we made into a special. That's all it was. A breaking story.
Here's a video that people are claiming is a real alien. Here we have, this is one example, UFO Network, News and Education, 10-second clip of a gray alien. Could it be real?
It's a hell of a good special effects job. I'm well aware of the video.
Yeah, it is. I gotta say, it's pretty convincing.
But hold on, it's not as good as cutting it open and taking out organs.
I get it. I get it.
That fooled two pathologists that collectively did 40,000 autopsies. How could they be fooled by John Humphreys, a special effects guy in England? Pretty amazing when you think about it.
It is pretty amazing. But did you know that the actual source of where this video came from was found? And it's a funny.
Tell us, Steve. I want to know more about it.
All right. Well, this is. Hold on. We got it. So this is the video, and there's other clips like this that are circulating around. Right now, there's 10 or more clips from this production, let's call it, that are making the rounds. People are making all kinds of claims that these are real aliens, but when you actually know where it came from, it's kind of laughable. And
where did it come from, Steve?
I'm going to show you because one of my friends on Twitter found the exact source of where these alien videos that people are sharing saying are real aliens actually came from, and here it is. It came from an alien porno movie. Sometimes
Are you
Mr.
kidding?
Kiviat. No, this is true, 100%. I checked
Well,
into it.
things have circled around because let me tell you something.
Truth
When
is
the-
stranger than fiction.
when the
There's an alien
Steve,
porno movie where a
Steve,
dude is banging what appears to be an alien with a.
you can't make this
You
up.
can't make this
Are you
shit up.
serious?
But that's where all these clips that people are sharing came from, like the beast,
Now,
you
Steve,
know,
it's
like
a
the
family-
B-roll from
It's
this
a family
porno.
show, Steve. It's a family show here.
Yeah, well, that's why we'll try to keep
That's why
it
you
family.
put that. So let me get this straight. You're telling me that you determined, which I'm very fascinated by, you and your research.
Well, I didn't research it too deeply, but I did check, and that's a real alien porno movie.
Did you confirm the scene is in that movie?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The rest of the movie blows my mind, literally.
The rest of the movie I tried not to watch because it was kind of weird.
Right now.
It was kind of weird.
To a level I can't tell you. But it's very important you hear this historically. When the alien autopsy first came out, and we were digging into it, the rumors were that it came out of the porno industry in Germany.
Oh, wow.
And
yeah, because they got
wait for it. There are tantalizing possible connections that make it that there could have been people from the porno industry involved in faking the film.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, the Germans have the weirdest, strangest forms of porn. It's just bizarro. So
we never tracked it down to any credible source on
Yeah.
that, but the rumors that we kept hearing from people in Europe where they thought it came out of the porno business. And now we're looking at this and we're going, you blow my mind, Steve. Anyway, who knows? But I like that the video itself was well made. Not the other part that we sure is crazy. Are you sure it's actually a real movie?
Listen, I can't do it live on air, but I can send you a link to it. It's in the horror porn section on xvideos.com called Roswell UFO.
I don't want to.
We can watch the whole thing, Bob. But I can't play it. I can't play it here, but I can send you the link to it.
There are certain things. Do you hear about this guy, terrible analogy? But do you hear about this video that apparently went up on YouTube yesterday of a guy who killed his father?
Yeah, it's right in my area.
There are certain scenes you never want to see because you can't erase it. I would never want to see that. And I would never want to see that movie you just told me. It would scar me for life. It would scar me in every area of my being. But
yeah, it's also on Pornhub for those that are interested. It's just called Roswell UFO porn.
You can't be serious. Is that
I'm telling you that's where this came from? But people have taken the sort of the B-roll clips, like before the banging starts. There's some B-roll. I watched this. So before the dude starts banging the alien, there's some B-roll clips of him like examining the body and whatever. That's where these people are pulling these clips from. But yeah, it's a literal.
Well, you have one thing I will say.
X porno movie.
For the historical record, during the time when I'm telling you that UFOs were of the highest interest in this culture, when my original shows for the Fox network and the X-Files were more the rage. If you did an early search on the internet, mid to late 90s, the two biggest searches were sex and UFOs. So it's not that weird to see some kind of conflation between the two, but it just is mind-boggling. Let's put it that way.
I just wonder, like, how somebody thought that was a good idea to make that, Bob. Like, you know what people haven't seen enough of? A dude banging an alien.
So wait a minute.
Let's do that.
Are you telling me there actually are scenes depicting this? Huh? Oh my!
Absolutely.
Well,
you'll never be the same once you watch it.
Do you remember that thing that they used to have in Star Trek? Or was it Star Trek? No, in Men in Black to make you erase your memory.
Yeah. I need one of that. I need to get hit with that thing. Yes.
But let me just say, if we have a few more minutes, I want to let you know that I think you, the alien scientist, Jeremy, you guys are great. Manny, who now works with me, did a great job on the Who's Lou thing.
Yeah, no offense, but fuck Manny because he took my job. That should have been my job, Bob Kiviat.
No, that is me. We're going to be enlisting you, Steve.
No, I love Manny, but
in the new documentary. Wait.
Yeah,
Steve, you are going to be interviewed in this new documentary.
Oh, that's awesome.
We have to come to your house and kind of barricade you in a room, whatever it takes. We're going to be having you in the show. The question is, will you be wearing glasses or not?
Funny you should ask that.
Your call.
Funny you should
Your
ask
call.
that, because
We'll
I
never
had a
say no.
chance. I have done so far. I'm not allowed to talk about it until the documentary comes out. But I was interviewed in a documentary by a company, and they've made a bunch of documentaries, and they had the same issue. I was just defaulting, like, I'll just wear the glasses because I
I
had
never
this
said you
issue.
couldn't.
Yeah, I had the issue with my eyes. But anyway, they talked me into taking it off, taking the glasses off and just doing it, and it was fine. So maybe I'm
I
just a
think we
little
want you. No,
self-conscious.
we want you in the truth seeker vibe. We want you.
I kind of prefer it.
We
Yeah,
want
it's
people
kind
to
of
know
comes
who
with
you
me.
are. But maybe
Area
toward the
503 is laughing. Do you keep laughing? You took that job right from me, dude. That was my gig, you prick.
Manny's unique in many ways, but Steve, you are.
Oh,
unique.
he's very talented. I'll give him that. He's a very
And
talented
so
man.
I will say this: the reason why I'm listing all of you, you kept the fire going while I was doing all this research, trying to figure out who's going to let me do the utter expose on UFO grifting, and still let me leave the UFO mystery in its pristine, like Joe Rogan said, the exciting kind of thing, and not a boring, stupid, military-esque, politico bullshit kind of story. And so you guys kept it alive in the right way by keeping people attuned to what was going on every step of the way. I'll even give Green Street some credit over there at the New York Post. By the way,
I think he does great. I think he does a great job.
We tried to see if we could use some of Green Street's, video. I won't say which, but you can get a hint. It's in Salt Lake City issue. We tried to get.
He didn't want to give it up, I guess.
Because we're not going to Salt Lake City. We're not going to be shooting the, that aspect.
The Mormon part of it, yeah.
Well, the Mormon thing is merged to Skinwalker Ranch. What you have now, if I was writing a book today, which someday I'll write the book, you're going to have a complete conflation between the Mormon belief of Joseph Smith, the plates, who gave the plates to the, alleged, person, Joseph Smith, and this whole idea of Skinwalker Ranch. There's a direct relationship between people that believe these things.
Oh, sure. They think when they die, they get their own planet. So, alien beliefs will kind of go along with some of them.
I'm sure I'll be getting a threatening something or other from Brandon if he saw your show tonight. But you know what? I think he needs to lighten up. He needs to lighten up because there's a lot more that can be made by admitting you might have been gullible about something. You didn't know what it was, and now you do. But to just grift it out and fake the crap I see on Skinwalker Ranch, the one or two times I've actually watched one of the episodes, because someone pointed it out to me, I would never watch, but they point out, did you see the latest thing they did? Okay, let me watch. And people deserve better, Steve. People that pay for their cable bill, that have History Channel.
I just heard Brandon Fugel in his Spaces, and here's what he said. He said, we at the Skinwalker crew are completely and totally transparent. Yet when journalists, Jack Brewer of Expanding Frontiers Research, when he filed right to know requests with the local municipality that's paying these Skinwalker stars to do stuff, like hold conventions. Yep. This is what he gets. Does that look totally transparent to you? Brandon Fugel says they're totally transparent. You can't see shit in this document. They gave him the whole document is blacked out, Bob. How is that transparent?
It's not even redacted. It's just blacked out.
The whole document. Now, there was some parts of it that you could read.
Wait a minute. That's even better. So in other words,
but Jack Brewer doesn't play. He's going to court, I think, and he's going to force them. They have to. They can't redact
Brewer's work. Manny pointed Brewer out to me. I think Brewer's work is great. I think
he's excellent. He's excellent. We need more Jack Brewers in the world, and less Jeremy Corbell's. That's what I think.
In the UFO documentary series, we believe it's series-wise, your involvement. People like this have done this work. That's part of the story. That's part of the Odyssey. That's how it's gotten.
Anything you need me for, I'm right there. I'll just.
And what's fascinating is, I appreciate that. What Ralph Blumenthal, the former New York Times writer, said in this thing called UFO Revolution. This is a revolution, by the way. You guys are the revolution. You two people, even Manny before I met him. The revolution is there could be good reporting on this subject on YouTube. There could be good reporting on the internet. There could be even great reporting by my son, who actually does better reporting on the New York Mets than Newsday in New York, New York Post in New York, Daily News in New York.
That's probably because he's super passionate about the Mets, right?
And he is, but he's also a good writer, and he's thoughtful. And he gives people good
Well, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree there, Bob.
I appreciate that.
He's probably got that in his genetics from you, you know?
Yes, and he's an associate producer and his brother on the Mandela Effect documentary. So it is in the family. We got it going now. But there's one thing, but I want you to know this one thing, that people who think it's easy to sell product that exposes fraud, it's not easy. People don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I want to believe.
Yeah, put the blinders on. Yeah,
that's not a good way to live. Yeah, no. And I think we're going to get a very good reactions from the people in the community now in entertainment, because I think they're going to start to see people do want the truth. They do want it, and they will watch it as long as you present it in a very compelling way, and we will.
Yeah, I'm with you, Bob. I think there needs to be a change to the way that this media has been produced for the last bunch of years, and I'd like to be a part of it. I'm glad that to see somebody of your stature that like has a proven track record of produce. You know, people can argue with you all they want, Bob, but they can't argue with a proven track record of great investigatory pieces, great, you know, just balls to the wall. Let's figure this mystery out case by case. And that's what I've seen you do. And I'm so happy to see you kind of jumping back into the Coliseum, you know, because we need you, Bob. We need you now. We need somebody of your stature, because my little bullhorn is not doing it. We need somebody like you to stand up and say what you've said tonight. And I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you're doing this.
But and I appreciate every accolade you just gave me, but I want you to understand something. Although I've not been on the air with the material, I've been developing it. So it starts this next 2 months with the Mandela Effect Phenomenon, put out by Orchard, not Orchard, by a good company. Thank God, not Orchard, not by this company.
Yeah, I just went in my brain and went, wait, what?
Here's why I know. The company is called Uncorked. So I got kind of verklempt by the Uncorked. Okay. It's Uncorked as opposed to the Orchard. Now, remember the Orchard, everyone? These are the people that put out these iTunes documentaries by Corbell, by Stephen Greer, by these people that have no real, I think, place to making documentaries.
Yeah, Third Phase of Moon too, and Corey Good and David Wilcock too. Right. It's like a garbage fest over there.
So the one reason why I made that little tongue slip there is because it's so important that the work that I'm now doing with Uncorked, and we hope major companies like Netflix in the very near future, we do hope that people start giving us the kind of support that the grifters have been getting, but way beyond that. We want to go so far beyond that, it's not even funny.
Yeah, well, I wish you the best of luck with that. I really do. And like I said, anything you need me for to be involved with, I'm happy. I would be overjoyed to help you with all of what you're working on. So,
well, we want you at the Mandela Effect premiere. We want you on that, the Mandela Effect phenomenon. So we want you to come to that, and maybe you'll do a little report on that. And maybe
sure, I'd be happy to. Yeah.
And remember, there is this connection between the portals and CERN and the allegations from the scientists and even Stephen Hawking that kind of points at.
I know, that's mind bending. I can't wait to hear more. I want to hear more about that part of it. Like, that's
an interesting dichotomy.
Yeah, it's mind bending. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming here tonight. We truly appreciate you. You're one of the most requested guests. I get messages all the time when people catch your other interviews, like, what's going on with Bob? Where's the film? So I'm glad that you could just come here and do an update for us.
Steve, that's why I reached out. I wanted you to know what's going on. And listen, thanks to all your people and everyone there. And look, just give us all the support you can. We're doing the right thing. We think we are, like you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. All right. Well, thank you, Bob. You have a great evening and stay in touch.
Keep
up the great work. Thank you, Mr. Bob Kiviat. What a great conversation. I love shows like this because it's just totally effortless, and what an incredible history Bob has had. So, I think that if you're interested, he's looking for people to sort of invest in some of his film projects and endeavors. I'm going to take a moment And I apologize, but sometimes when there's an interview going on, we don't stop every time there's a super chat. So we didn't do that tonight, but we read every single super chat. And we thank every single one of you for your kindness, generosity, and support. So we'll do that now. Zizix, ask about Roswell 1947 cover-up sham. Oh, I apologize. Stephen Cambion is straight heavy metal, says Chase Byrne, kind of generous, $2. And a member, Lucy Day, gifted 5 more memberships. By the way, Lucy Day gifted 5 memberships yesterday, or 10 memberships yesterday, and a bunch of people messaged me today thanking me for the free membership. Don't thank me, thank Lucy Day. Anybody can gift a Truthseekers membership, and what happens is, this is important, be subscribed here. I know a lot of you people watch, maybe you never hit the subscribe button. Hit that subscribe button, because when people buy these free memberships, YouTube randomly just gives them out to whoever they want. But you have to be a subscriber to get in line. And somehow YouTube has some kind of random way they pick people that are subscribers, and you get a free membership here. So you get those extra goodies. Thank you, Lucy Day. John Chell, the kind of generous $2, says, Bob is always straight up, right or wrong, no BS. We appreciate that. High Speed Chase says, there is no money in the truth, unfortunately. High Speed Chase, who's also a member, thanks for both, says, let's grift the grifters. Steve Nicholson, with kind of generous $5, said they rephrased it to UAP due to all the demonic activity, but they won't tell you that. Well, that's an interesting way to look at it, Steve Nicholson, and thank you for your kindness. We thank High Speed Chase for kind of generous $20. Says Stephen, I'm going to write a song about these grifting Wookiee spankers. That's a new term here, Wookiee spankers. You heard it here first. Music will bring truth. I agree with you. And High Speed Chase with the final, he's the MVP of the Super Chats tonight, says, you guys rock, keep it up. Kind and generous $5. So we'll just do one praise the cash to thank all of you, including you kind and generous Patreon supporters and YouTube channel members. I should let you all know we're trying something new. I'm doing an extra Patreon and members video every week now for the month of February. So there'll be a lot of extra goodies. Thank you all for helping us to praise the cash.
Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash. Thank you for your kindness. Thank you for your generosity. Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash.
All right, friends. So we have done our due diligence. I've got one more show to bring you. Please follow me on Twitter at Stephen Cambion. Also, I'm not new to Instagram, but I've been using that account. I've had that account forever. We're live streaming on Instagram every night. Follow me there at Truthseeker Show. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and share these videos. It really does help. So we've done our due diligence, and I can't tell you, I'm excited about Bob's upcoming projects. And I think you should be too, because he did the things the right way. Bring in the skeptics when you're trying to figure out what is going on with this story. Don't just give half of the story. Bob always gave us all sides of the story, and I always appreciated that about his work. It's something that's sorely missing in today's infotainment world that we're living in now. But I think that the tides may be changing, and I'm fairly certain that he's going to be a part of that. So that's all I got for you, friends. Until next time, my name is Stephen Cambion. Good night, and God bless all of you.